Hey guys, what's up? It's Drew here, quick video blog. I want to do a video today on confidence and conviction because a lot of people ask me where I get my confidence from. And, I just want to make it clear. It's not arrogance. It's confidence. It's conviction. It's having faith in the course that you take and making decisive actions. And with me, these days, my conviction and my confidence comes from a long history of backed up actions. Like, I have a history of saying something and doing exactly that. That's one of the that's one of the reasons why my fiance loves me so much, because it's a rare quality to have as a man these days, that when you say you're about something and you say you're going to do something, that you do it. When I told people in my past that how when you're on the come up, when you're trying to progress in life, you have a lot of detractors, you have a lot of doubters, and you have people who say, yeah, right, you're not going to be that, you're not going to become that. I've proven every single one of those people wrong. Every single one of them have had to eat their words. I've also, when it comes to, let's talk about as a man, when it comes to physical conflict, for the longest time in my life, I've always been the guy who, I always come with respect first. I always come with, a cordial type of response. Like, I come as a respectful person, but I've never been the type of person who will let anybody be disrespectful or assert themselves over me, or assert themselves over someone else in front of me. And some people would call this, being an alpha and whatnot. It's not necessarily an alpha. I don't bully people. I don't push people around. I don't really believe in that. But I am the type of person that if somebody does test me, I tend to take it a little bit too far. I've had a history of doing that. And that's actually something negative that I've had to overcome. I've had to become a better person, not go out of my way to destroy someone's life just because they were incredibly disrespectful or they tried to harm me. Not go out of my way to make an example out of somebody. But I have a history of making good on what I say. Typically, my word, like the things that I say, I follow up. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If I say I'm going to build this here, I build it there. That's how confidence is built. It's built through action. That's how conviction is built. It's built through action. Now, that's the physical part of it. The spiritual part of it takes it to a whole nother level. When you have had the kind of spiritual experiences that I have, and you operate righteously, it's a biblical thing that the righteous are as bold as a lion. The new type of boldness that I have, the old type of boldness was just based on my physical actions and my history, keeping my word, saying I'm going to do something and doing it. Addressing threats head on. Anybody that appeared to try and intimidate or try to assert themselves over me, I'm punching them dead in their face immediately. I don't operate in fear. Never have. That's how I started my businesses. That's how I run my life. It's a lifestyle for me. It's not something that I'm not familiar with. It's a lifestyle for me. There's nobody holding me in place. I went out there. I started something that didn't exist before, and every single day, I deal with the ramifications of my actions. It's you go out there and you kind of just, anything could go wrong at any point. And I have the conviction, I have the spirit, I have the ability to take risks and be the way that I am because I don't operate out of fear. And a lot of people can't do that. Now, to get to that point, to get to the point where you can handle fear and you can move with confidence and you can move with conviction, you have to take actions. Meaning that when you're just starting out, Any hesitation, any fear, any insecurities that you feel in your heart must be addressed. Must be. It must be before it gets bigger and judge and move, moves your action. And another way to build your confidence is to develop thick skin. You need to go through a lot of rejection, a lot of no. You need to go through a lot of just outright no's and people rejecting you, and you need to go through a lot of things that would be damaging to normal people, basically. You need to you need to experience violence. You need to experience physical conflict. You need to experience failure. You need to experience all of those things. You need to experience things that will push your body, mind, and soul and your spirit to extremes. And I've been through those things, and that's why my confidence and my conviction is on a whole nother level. The last part of it is the spiritual connection. Again, I'm going back to that, the spiritual connection. I know that if I'm living a righteous lifestyle, there's absolutely nothing to fear. That comes from faith in God. I've had a really tight relationship with God for a very long time. God has led me out of so many different things that I have so much conviction. I have faith to the point where I do what is righteous, I do what is right, despite any kind of temptations, to do what is wrong. I do my best to do what is right, and I do my best to be righteous, and I have nothing to fear after that. Because I believe that God is always in control, and I believe that God will always set things right, no matter what. No matter what. So the things that tempt typical men and mislead typical men, some men are misled by greed. And if they were in my position, they would probably embezzle millions of dollars. If they were in my position, they could not handle the weight of my position, because being in my position requires ethics. It requires integrity. It requires relatability. It requires a lot that would tempt the average person. There are people who would do things for billions of dollars that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't do for trillions. I wouldn't do for, that's called having integrity. I wouldn't do certain things for billions of dollars. I move the way that I move because of my history, because God has put me in this position, and I move righteously. That's who I'm anchored to. I'm anchored to God. Before this, I wasn't necessarily anchored to God. I was just anchored to what I wanted, and I was anchored to what I wanted for myself. And oftentimes that didn't always turn out to be the best. But once I realized that God has my best interests at heart, once I realized that God is always there and he's always protecting, he's always watching, you're operating under the grace and you're operating righteously, there's no reason to fear anything. And so that's the second part of the confidence. The first part is the actual lived experience, the lived human experience that I've had with lots of rejection, lots of violence, physical conflict, letdowns, disappointments, betrayals. I'm familiar with all of that stuff. I'm familiar with all that stuff. Depression, anger. I lived that life at one point. I went through that. It's like you go through such in your physical and your soul that your spirit becomes bigger and louder, because your body and your mental have been through so much that you have to open up the third side of you. And the third side, I think, of people is that spirit, which is for a lot of people still sleeping. And you only open up that side when you connect with God, when you connect with the source, when you connect with the Father. When you connect with God, he will open up that side. And once you connect with God, it's really, really difficult to fear anything, because it's like you just, as you operate within the principles, and you respect the spiritual laws, and by that point you're just pretty much very confident. And it's more than a confidence in self. It's a confidence in God. It's a faith in God. It's not a faith that everything will go your way. It's not about everything going your way. It's about the fact that you can handle whatever is put in front of you. It's about the fact that you're equipped with the ability and the skill set to be able to handle whatever is put in front of you. That's where this confidence comes from. One half personal experiences and loss, physical conflict, violence. Like I know myself in physical conflict because I've been through physical conflict many times, not just for sport, not just for sport, not just when I was doing wrestling, but also like in life. Like I've been in physical, like, you know the saying, some people have never been punched in the face before. Well, I know my chin, and I know also how to return the favor. I'm well aware of my ability to best somebody physically. I'm well aware of my ability not to even need to, though, because I don't come at people with disrespect. No, sometimes you have to protect people, you have to protect others, and that's how I see my position. I don't use my physical strength on other people, on my physical capabilities on other people, unless I absolutely have to. There's no need. Like, I don't walk around my chest out, none of that. There's no need. I mean, if you live by the law of the jungle, you die by the law of the jungle. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's biblical too. So I follow the laws, I follow the layouts that God has given me, and that's where this confidence comes from. You can't take it. It can't be moved by other people, and it can't be shaken by other people, because it comes from a source that is greater than people. It comes from God. It comes from God. You know what I mean? And God gave me certain experiences that built up my skin, that built up my confidence, it built up my conviction. He made me go through a lot before I got to this point. And going through all that has put me in a position where I'm just calmly and very confident in the outcomes of how things would be. It's a certain inner strength that God has built up. And I maintain that strength by doing things every single day. Every single day I work on my physical body, I work on my mental, and I work on my spirit. Those three things. I work on my physical body by exercising, weightlifting, cardio, eating correctly. I work on my mental, playing chess, reading books, first thing in the morning, typically from about 4:30 a.m. in the morning to 5:30 a.m. every single day. I'm reading a book before I go to the gym. So those two things alone will have you good. And then the next thing is spiritual. Like I pray, I practice spiritual harmony. Like I practice being righteous, right? So when I make a covenant with God, when I make a contract with God, I honor that contract, and I strengthen that contract. I try to live life righteously. I study the Bible. I study spiritual laws and spiritual, interesting things about the spirit and how the nature of the spiritual world works. And I grow the spirit through those means. So those three things. I'm always working on my body. I'm always working on my mind. And I'm always working on my spirit. I'm always doing it. So I'm always ready for whatever comes my way. That's where the confidence comes from. It comes from practice. It comes from application. It comes from actual lived experience. And it comes from spirituality and connection with the source, with God. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. For some people, this is so beyond their understanding that they don't believe it. But that's where it comes from. And in my position, in my industry, you cannot operate with weakness, because if you do, you're dealing with a lot of sharks, and you're dealing with snakes, and you're dealing with people who will take advantage of you. So you have to be righteous, but you also have to be aware of the fact you can't be righteous out of being naive. You can't be nice because you have to be nice. You have to be the type of dude who is like, you're more than capable of doing damage, but you don't do it because you're a good dude. You have integrity. You're righteous. That's what it has to be. You can't be the type of person that is like, you're a good person and you're a nice person because you're weak, and you have to be a nice person. You have to be a good person. No, it's like more so that you're actually a strong person and you're a nice person, you're a good person because it's the right thing to do. Not because you're weak or strong, or not because you can take advantage of somebody or you can't. You do it because it's the right thing to do, because you're a righteous man. You're a spiritual man, you're a good guy, you're a good person. And it's not by society standards either. That's why it's very important who you're anchored to. If you're anchored to God, no matter what society does around you and how society changes, you will always be anchored. You will always be on the righteous path, because you're seeking wisdom, and you're seeking direction from a source that is greater. That's the whole idea. So that's where the confidence, that's where the conviction comes from. Lived experience and a relationship with God. That's all I got to say. Peace.